sound okay? I haven't checked that yet.
Yeah, you're okay.
Okay.
Welcome to the Story Studio podcast. Today we have on as our guest Damon Courtney, the founder, creator, president, whatever you are, Bookfunnel, which has become, it's interesting because I remember when Bookfunnel was like, Damon just announced it to us and we were like, yeah, there's Damon. He's got an idea. That's kind of cool. That's kind of fun. And now it's like the standard. Like people just don't even explain it. They're like, yeah, just put it through Bookfunnel. And so it's a whole thing. So that's awesome.
Do you remember what else happened that day, Johnny?
Well, I remember what the event was. There were a lot of things that happened that day. I can't pin it down.
Well, there was another announcement made that day for another product that was basically Bookfunnel and this product got announcements on the same day. And one has become the standard and one has become an ill-fated, abandoned part of our history.
I think I know which one you're talking about, but I don't want to say it unless it's like,
No,
it's like okay. Maybe it's like saying Macbeth during a play. It's just reverse everything. You don't do that.
Yeah, Marie said Beaver Nuggets, but they predate us all.
No, it was Story Shop.
Predate man.
Seth was in Austin. He came to talk about Story
That's
Shop.
right, because Seth and I were the only, we were sitting there with the rest of them. We were like, I'm a programmer.
Yes, that was when it was called Master Beats.
So to bring this together for those of you who aren't as inside baseball as all of us, Story Shop did not have a successful run. Bookfunnel, however, did. So
they're opposites, y'all.
So Bookfunnel is for delivering books and now selling as well. Like you guys are doing direct sales and everything. Can you give us the elevator pitch on Bookfunnel for the people who may not know what the hell it is?
So what I like to tell people is that Bookfunnel is anywhere that you could want to deliver ebooks outside of the store system. So that entails a lot of different things, but that's the basic pitch. And really it is, if you're going to sell your book on Amazon, then Amazon's going to deliver your book for you. If you're going to sell it on Kobo, then Kobo will do the delivery for you. If you want to deliver a book anywhere else, they're probably not going to do that for you. So, for example, you're going to set up a newsletter and you're going to deliver your reader magnet, a novella, a short story, something else that you want to give away. Bookfunnel is going to be there to do that for you. And we're platform agnostic. So whatever device the reader has in their hand, we're going to get the book to it. So you can send a link. We have a lot of other features, but basically you can send a book to anybody. And regardless of their device, we're going to be able to help them get their book. And then we added, so that used to be the simplest pitch. And of course, like as a company goes on and it gets deeper and deeper, then it becomes harder and harder to describe it in an elevator pitch. But now we also do audio up to 2 hours, which is great for short form audio, like short stories, novellas, or serialized episodes and things like that. And then, we're working on full-size audiobooks, which at this point is hopefully imminent release. Was working on it this morning before I got on this call.
What's the barrier to longer form audio? Is it just delivery cost, storage?
It's all in the size. Yeah. So it's the delivery costs are not, they can be pretty extensive. It depends because what you're looking at is not that somebody's going to listen to it one time. They're going to listen to it multiple times eventually. And whether you deliver a book for free, let's say that you give somebody a novella. So just doing what Bookfunnel already does, which is up to 2 hours. So 2 hours is about 18,000 words. You can put a pretty nice novella out at 18,000 words. So you push that out there and you give it to somebody for free. We have a lot of authors now that are building up completely separate audio newsletters, an entirely separate segmentation of their newsletter that is just for audio listeners. And they're giving away audio content because why would you try to hook audio listeners if you weren't giving them audio? But the thing is like you hand out that one little piece of audio and you give it to somebody, but I being Bookfunnel, I have to store that audio and put it out there forever. It becomes a part of that reader's library. So just like if you go and you sell a book on Amazon and then you decide, screw it, I'm going to unpublish it. Amazon still holds that book forever and ever and ever for everybody who ever bought it, because when they got their copy, well, they deserve to be able to come back and get another copy later if, they lost their Kindle.
Technically, I mean, the apocalypse, when we all lose our Kindle libraries forever, they're not responsible for maintaining it after the apocalypse.
Yes, they are.
I'm sure we have apocalyptic clauses in our terms of service that specifically state that we are not required to continue.
Like Amazon isn't planning for the apocalypse. They've got apocalypse drones to deliver various
they probably have
steampunk
an apocalypse response team. And
I'm
he's
sure.
like, they call in. He's
They
like,
have a
"Zombies
Mad
are
Max
coming."
gasoline delivery system for your generator while you're eating people.
Skynet.
The best thing about Bookfunnel, in my mind, is the support. Because if you've ever tried to give a book to a reader, about
How do you
30% of the
sideload
time-
this? And
Right.
there's like 15 fucking emails.
and then you're in a loop, because one thing never solves it, and then hold on, I tried that, let me try this, and they just handle everything for you, and it's great. And I've done that before too.
I've had to actually go to people's houses and hand do deliver the book to
Well,
them.
every once in a while, like the Bookfunnel's real good about, like, people tend to reply to Bookfunnel, but every once in a while somebody like, hey, I couldn't get on the device. I'm like, yeah, contact Bookfunnel. Just go to them.
And that's what we do. And we tell people, I have to encourage our authors to send their emails to our support, because they'll email us and say, I have a reader who's having trouble and she has a Kindle. And what do I tell her? Like, you tell her to email us, or you send her to us. Don't try to help her, because the first question is, well, she has a Kindle. What kind? There's like 30 of them. So and our support people are all trained to handle all of that stuff. So no matter what they come to us with, we've seen some weirdo device. We still get people on Blackberries that are trying to read books.
Wow.
Windows phones, yeah, we still support those. We're still helping people with Windows phones.
You're the
Longer
one.
than
Yeah, right?
Microsoft has.
You wouldn't believe it. Chromebooks, we see all of that sort of stuff.
Wait. How about the Kindle phone, the Amazon phones? I actually have one of those.
Okay, so that's the
I have
one
one.
nobody ever sees, right? The one,
I have one. And you know what? It actually still functions, which is more than I can say for my Apple device.
Did you think it was going to be the next big thing, that Kindle phone?
I got it because
it was the Fire phone. That's what
I love the Kindle, and the stream was good, and they had like a really cheap sale one day, and I needed a phone at the time, so I got it. I forgot what happened where I stopped using it though, but yeah.
Well, your drug deal was over.
Yeah.
It was his burner. Oh, the Fire is your burner phone.
He was selling burners like in Better Call Saul.
No, what's funny is, like, one of these days we should do a call, and I'll take you around the Bookfunnel office and show you. We have hundreds of devices in this office. Every Kindle, every Android phone, iPad, iPhone, Tolino readers, the Kindle DX giant model.
I have that one.
The one they only sold in Japan for manga readers. Like, we own all of those devices because that's how we help everybody. When you come to us and you say, I've got a Kindle, blah 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 blah, my people can go pick that device up and actually walk you through it step by step, because we have
the
that.
perfect excuse to just buy tech, which is fucking awesome.
Hey, that's how Bookfunnel. So Bookfunnel started because I tend to be a little flighty sometimes, and I don't always follow through. And so I actually went to my wife and I said, I have this idea. I think it's a really good idea. I think it'll work, but I need some money to start up, because I basically have to buy all these devices. And that was it was Black Friday 2014, because I used Black Friday as my excuse. Like, holy crap, I can get all these devices way cheaper than I normally would. And so, yeah, I went and just piled up my desk. Like, for months, I had just tablets and Kindles and everything sitting on my desk. And I went through every one of them and, like, Kindle first gen. Like, take notes. Like, that's how you downloaded that one. All right, that one's done. Kindle
Wow,
Fire.
kill me now.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds like fun to me.
But I love the Bookfunnel origin story. I think it's phenomenally good, because Damon was paying attention. He said, okay, so I'm hearing all this conversation around book funnels. Like, even the name was just so straightforward.
I remember that was one of the things that you announced to us. The book funnel. It's got the funnel.
Yeah. It's such, when you look at really great products that endure, it's because they solve a specific problem. And that is a huge pain point for the industry. How do we
selling
sideload our
shovels to
stuff?
writers?
And right. And this was one where he's like, you know what? My specific skill set can address this particular problem. And that's great. Like, Damon really did make the solution that is now the standard for our industry, which was wonderful to see. But it's better because it didn't stop there. Damon's still listening to the market and saying, what other problems do people have and how can I solve them?
Which is why we're having him on.
Yes. So that's really, really
Full
great.
circle.
So I'd love to just know about the biggest things that you've seen, the trends, because you're delivering a lot of cookies, which, makes you special.
Makes
to
Dave
Dave.
happy.
Cookie funnel. Cookie
Right.
funnel. Start
Cookie
cookie
funnel.
funnel. I will be there.
It's like Tips Treats here in Austin. Here they come. Delivering cookies.
if you look at that, you're able to see what people download, why they download it, how they read. I mean, we've been talking more and more and more about how valuable data is, and you have a very specific level of insight. So
yeah, they have a support response macro that says, "Man, you got a lot of porn."
What's really funny is like, so we don't, Bookfunnel doesn't have. We do see a lot of that stuff, and if I go to conferences, which nobody's doing right now, but usually by this point in the year, I probably would have gone to 3 or 4 conferences. I usually go to about five or six a year, and this year I've gone to 0. I actually went to one back in February, right before everything kind of shut down. But when I go and I give a talk at conferences, that's a big part of what I talk about, is the sort of the things that, I haven't self-published a book in many years, and so I can't count myself among the people who are publishing and actively trying new things. But at Bookfunnel, we do see a lot. We see everything that the authors are out there doing, because I will say that one of the cool things about the service that we've built is that, if you put your book up on Amazon, right, or even if you put it up on all the bookstores and you make it go wide, there's only so much experimentation that you can do. The bookstores don't give you a lot of tools and a lot of things that you can do to sort of play with and experiment. Well, you have your book, you can run some ads, you can make it free for a week, but that's pretty much the extent of it, right? Whereas on Bookfunnel, we have no limitations. You put your ebook up and you can do anything you want to do with it. If you want to sell it direct to your readers, you go sell it. If you want to give it away, if you want to try, we've had authors that did serialized fiction through Bookfunnel, where they release a new episode via Bookfunnel every week or every 2 weeks. We now have authors that are doing that with audio. They're putting out a new episode every week. That's not something you could pull off on Audible.
Wait, are you updating ebooks like Kindle Serial was doing for a little bit?
No, but that's something that we want to do. So now that we have an app that we've had an app on Android for years that basically was just a downloader. It really just, it took the book off of our servers and it put it into their Kindle app or their Nook app or whichever app it was that they wanted to read in. But in January of this year, we launched a full-blown app where people can manage their libraries, they can download books, they can do all of that. And we also built our own e-reader into the app, which I built from the ground up because I couldn't find anything else that was good enough. And we built in on an audio player and soon to have audiobooks in that same app. So everybody who wants can do everything that they want to do right from within that app. And it still does what Bookfunnel originally was designed to do, which is we'll still put the book into your Kindle app or your Nook app or send it over to your Kobo device, however that you want to read it. But now you have the option of also just saying, whatever, I'll just read it right here in the Bookfunnel app. The cool thing about that is that we get to see a lot of what the authors are doing and what the readers are doing. So because of the kind of business that we have, we see authors doing really experimental stuff. Like I said, doing serials, doing, most people are out there giving away a reader magnet, signing people up for their newsletter and stuff. And that's as true today as it was 10 years ago. You really still should be trying to create a personal connection with your readers and not ceding that ground to the booksellers. Because it's one of the things that I think that they sort of drop the ball on. And I've actually seen some of the traditional publishers doing a much better job of this, of trying to, like Tor publishers, a fantasy sci-fi publisher, they have a fantastic newsletter. And they've been building it and building it and building it for years. But I always tell indies that, you're an indie, act like it. Make that personal connection with your readers in a way that a lot of other publishers are not going to be able to. And so the kinds of experiments that they're doing and the things that they're doing make it really interesting to see. So you want some examples. We built direct sales a few years ago where you can sell the book and we handle the delivery part, which means that we're not a part of the sale. You're selling it from your own bookstore, you're selling it from Shopify, from a PayPal button, however you want to set it up. And then once the sale is made, Bookfunnel steps in and says, here's your ebook. If you have any trouble with it, we're happy to help you with it. That book gets added to their library. It shows up in their Bookfunnel app. They can send it to their readers, do whatever they want to do with it. But the cool things that we've seen authors using that for, you could do anything. We have some authors that have set up their entire bookstore. So you go to damonjcourtney.com. Don't go to damonjcourtney.com. I haven't updated in years. But the point is, you go to authorname.com and boom, here's my entire bookstore. You can buy all right from me. And then, you can also buy them at the bookstores that I'm available in. But more so than that, we see authors that are saying, okay, I don't want to set up my own bookstore. I don't want to manage all that. But I have this really cool box set that I want to put together of this 8-book series that I have, and I want to sell that box set directly to my readers. And I don't want to list that box set in the other stores because, as we all know, if you put a giant box set on Amazon, the best you can charge is $10 before Amazon chops your royalty rate in half. So it's kind of stupid to go and sell it on Amazon when I have to sell it for $20 to make the same money that I made at $10. So I have to screw my reader for twice as much money for me to even make the same money. And so what we've seen is authors who said, screw that. I'm not going to put the box set up on Amazon. I'm going to sell the box set directly myself. And they use the newsletter, the readers that they'd already built. And this especially works really well if you've been building your newsletter for years. Every reader that you get on today probably hasn't read a lot of your backlist. And so, we see a lot of the authors who this is their pitch. And you join their newsletter. It's like, hey, thanks for joining. Here's the free book that I promised you, the reader magnet. And then, a week or two later, hey, by the way, if you've never read my blah, blah, blah series, I have the entire series, all 8 books that I sell for $14.99 right here. You can buy it direct from me. The beauty is on a $20 sale, you'll take home, what is that, $19.10 of every single sale.
Yeah,
Because
that's beautiful.
Because
Dave and I
Bookfunnel doesn't take a cut of the sale.
Dave and I have a series that's out right now that we're heavily promoting, and there's no box set for it. It's just all the books, and it's perfect for exactly this, because it would be awesome to sell that as a bundle, but there's no way to make that work, on Amazon unless we're specifically going for page reads, and it's just a page reads thing. But as a part of a library, it's not.
It's really amazing that Damon has not only provided something that authors need and readers need, but the pricing model is so good. It's so fair. I mean, you're just, I don't know how you do it, and hats off to you. I mean,
it's one of the best examples of
I have nothing negative to say about you, and that's so rare.
We all know how valuable that is.
Except you don't wear shoes to conferences.
You know what that means. Believe me, I take that as a high compliment. So. Well, and that's so part of that big piece that comes from me having been an indie author first. When we sat down to do direct sales, which I will admit, I didn't want to build. I thought it was a bunch of crap and it was just going to be a waste of time, because I thought readers don't want to buy from your website. They want to buy from Amazon and Kobo and Barnes & Noble and places that they trust and they believe in. But the truth is that most readers, I won't say all readers, because there are certainly readers out there who just gobble up books left and right, and they don't even know the author's name of the books they're reading. They're just grabbing the next one in their genre and reading on and going. But most readers, by and large, they love their authors far more than they love their bookstores. Right. There are plenty of people out there who absolutely love Amazon and think they're an amazing company. I get Prime deliveries constantly, but I don't really care where a book is published. I care about the authors that I love. So wherever they're publishing, that's where they're going to be. And, people kept bugging me to build direct sales. And so we finally built it, and I said, here, fine, shut up. Here's your direct sales. And I thought, nobody's going to buy any of that. And I was super wrong. We get emails from readers. They love their authors so much that they would rather buy it directly from their authors. I'd rather that they email us and be like, well, I'd rather that such and such get the money than Jeff Bezos get the money, which is hilarious. Like Jeff's over there, like watching the dashboard for all the sales to come in. But still, the point remains is like they love their authors more for the most part than they love their bookstore. Right?
Yeah, it's a matter of education and communication. If you there's a couple things here. You need to educate your readers that this is possible. Hey, look, it really is easy, but also be able to make the ask, to say, hey, would you mind buying this? Because a lot of people or a lot of authors, I think, are timid to make that ask. Oh, it'll be inconvenient for them. They don't like it. But really, if you can get a reader to do it one time and it's a good experience, they'll do it over and over and over. And then maybe you just have 10% of your audience that buys from you that way, but that 10% could be pretty powerful. They could be your power readers, your best readers, and some of those will even go buy the book later on Amazon and review it with a verified purchase because they love you the most.
Well, and the sales that you get, so because most of the authors that are doing sales, they're building on their mailing list that they have already built. the beauty is almost everybody on their newsletter has already gotten the book from Bookfunnel because you got your reader magnet when you joined my list. So many of them already have the Bookfunnel app installed. They've already been through those steps. So buying this next book, it's nothing. They buy it direct and they're like, oh, sweet. If there it is in my Bookfunnel library, tap it, read it, you're reading in seconds. They don't need to worry about all of that stuff. We do have authors that drive direct sales directly from their Facebook ads. What's funny is this started in January of this year, really, really hard. Like we started seeing a lot of downloads and things coming in. So we have a leaderboard that shows us like who's getting all the downloads right now. And so, you know, we use that and we kind of poke around.
Is it still dino porn?
Yeah, it's huge. So
my appetites cannot be sated. All right.
So we look at the leaderboard and we're like, oh wow, why is this guy getting so many downloads? And we go and we look, and we had an author who put together a big box set and was selling it directly to his newsletter and was selling a lot of copies of it. And that's what's great is like you could go and buy the books on Amazon. It was an 8-book set, and on Amazon all the books were $5 a piece, so $40 for the set. He was selling it for $15, but it was a backlist. It was titles that he quit publishing years ago, but so many people on his newsletter that were now reading his new releases, they'd never actually read that older series. So he was doing a lot of sales on that. But then we started to see more and more authors doing the same thing, driving Facebook ads and driving people directly through. The great thing is like as Bookfunnel has continued to grow over the years with thousands and tens of thousands of authors that now use the service, most of the readers that we see, a lot of them, they've already been introduced to us. So they already know who we are. Many of them trust our name. So they see Bookfunnel, like, oh, okay, I can get my book from Bookfunnel. We get people that email us and ask us for books that we don't have because they got it from other services. And they really wish that they would just get it on Bookfunnel because they know how to do that. And all their books are in their library for them. So they're able to do that and send out those and do those sales. So that's one of the things that we see. I've seen some authors experimenting with selling short stories, which is really a really tough sell on most of the bookstores. If you sell it for 99 cents, you're getting 35 cents on the dollar from pretty much all of them. If you sell your own short stories for 99 cents, you take 65 cents on every sale. So we have authors that are out there that are selling little short stories. They'll put out a short story every other month or every month, and they'll either sell them directly or they end up just giving them away. And, you know, again, another thing you can do is just email your newsletter and say, hey guys, and I tell authors this because this is the one big mistake that I still see authors making a lot is they start building their newsletter and then they don't talk to their readers. And I can absolutely empathize with that. I don't like emailing and talking to people either. But the beauty is that if you don't really know what to say, and this is what I tell when I go do my pitch at conferences, but basically if you don't know what to say to your readers, write them a short story. You know, take your world, take your characters, the things that you love, the things that you know so well, go spend a few hours writing a few thousand-word short story, and then say, hey guys, I'm still working on the next book. Here's a short story that I wrote about this character and a little side adventure. I write fantasy, so everything is a side adventure. But here's a little short story that I wrote that I thought you guys might really like. And if you don't have anything else that you can say to your readers, do that. No one will ever be disappointed that you wrote more content, more great stories for them to read. But the great thing is we had an author that was doing that every other month. She would send out a free short story, and she was doing romance. So they were not part of the books. They were these little side stories because she was building this little, you know, I don't remember exactly what it was, but in romance, they have their quirky little small town. And so they have their whole characters. It's like their own little Gilmore Girls that they've built up, right? And so they would take one of these little characters in town and they'd write a little short story with them. The great thing is that she was pushing out those every other month. She was giving away a free copy, which made her newsletter readers super, super happy because they were getting more stories from more. You're building out, fleshing out the content of this world that she was creating. But then at the end of the year, around Christmas time, she would write a Christmas short. And then at the end, she would take all 6 of them and box them up. And that's one more piece of content, one more product that she would put up on Amazon. So if you weren't on her list and you missed all the short stories throughout the year, well, for $2.99, you can now buy the box set and it's got 6 short stories. So rather than being $3 for a short story, which a lot of people have trouble paying for, I'm giving you 6 short stories of more content for $3.
I would be curious to see just the nature of what it is that you guys do, what Bookfunnel's official stance is, and thoughts on and things that you've seen about KU versus wide.
for us, I always laugh because we don't really have a horse in this race. We have so many KU authors that use Bookfunnel, and I will say the most effective use of them, of Bookfunnel for KU authors, is either doing exclusive content, so doing things like those short stories or novellas that even if you're going to publish them ultimately on Amazon and KU, you're giving them to your readers first. You're giving them to your newsletter first, because the goal with all of it is always to try and take the fans or the leads that you've built onto your newsletter and convert them into super fans, people who will buy everything that you write from the end till the end of time, right? I have authors, I'm just thinking about it because the book that I'm currently reading is an author I started reading when I was 12. I still read every single book he publishes, every single book he publishes. And what's great is he's still a great writer. So I know when I pick up, oh man, he's got a new book out, I'm going to enjoy the heck out of that book. Even if it's totally new characters and a new world, which he's done. I have the world that I've been following since I was a kid, but he also went off and wrote for other publishers and created new worlds. And yet I knew when I picked up his book that I was going to have a good time, because I always have a good time when I read his books. And so you're out there, even if all your books are in KU, if you're taking and you're releasing those little bits of content, that extra exclusive content. So most of our KU authors still have a novella, a short story, or a bunch of short stories that they keep exclusively for their mailing list, right? So things that you could put them in KU if you wanted to. I mean, you certainly could try short stories and novellas and things like that, and some of that stuff works. But the biggest or the biggest draw to getting people onto your newsletter is giving them something that they can't get somewhere else. So even if they're reading your entire series in KU, you still want to be able, especially with KU readers, because KU readers tend to be loyal to the books in KU, right? So if you remove your books from KU, oftentimes they're just going to stop reading you. They don't care about you anymore. They'll just grab the next science fiction, military sci-fi writer who comes along. So if you died and stopped publishing tomorrow, your books would just and then drop off the cliff, and that's it. Nobody would ever read you again, or at least none of the other KU readers would read you again, because they've moved on.
For KU loyalty, is that what we're saying?
The KU readers are loyal to KU. And so your goal, to me, if you're a KU author, your goal is to try and pull them out of that KU tar pit and get them onto your newsletter and turn them into a super fan of yours, right? So most of them don't know the authors that they're reading. They're just reading, oh, that looks like a cool cover, I'll read that one. And
that's available. I'm paying for it already. So
right, exactly, and they do. The mindset in KU is that I read for free. I read everything for free. Well, it's not free. You're paying for it, but the mindset is it's virtually free. Psychologically, there's no difference. So your job as the author, though, is if you really want to try and make an enduring fan base, one that will continue to buy your books long into the future, you have to take those readers who are reading you right now in KU and get them over to your newsletter so that you can create that direct relationship with them. Because Amazon will never, ever give you that direct relationship. They're never going to allow you to talk directly to those readers, and especially not in KU. Those are Amazon's readers. They're not your readers. And so most of the KU authors that are on Bookfunnel, and like I said, we have tons of them, lots of authors because we get emails about it all the time. And they say, well, my books are all exclusive to Amazon. Well, you can do a 10% sample. Amazon allows you to do that. You can do a 10% sample of your book and give that away. But better than that, go write a reader magnet. Write something that you don't put up on Amazon that's exclusive only to your newsletter, and give them that instead. Because if they can't get that anywhere else, they're going to have to come to you to get it. And once you've got them, sure, some people will unsubscribe and they don't really care. They don't want to hear about you, but you're going to hook some of those, because as they go through and they read your series in KU, they're also getting newsletters from you, and maybe they're also getting short stories that are part of that series. And suddenly, well, I want to keep hearing from this author because he keeps sending me content that I can't get over here on Amazon. And yet it's still free. Again, KU readers, they're very committed to their free. So they want everything for free. If you get them on your newsletter and you're sending out, hey, here's a short story that I wrote that comes in between book 2 and book 3, they're still going to be reading all of that free content because that's how they're used to consuming their content. The difference is you're turning them into fans of you rather than just reading whatever next book that pops along when they get to Amazon.
All right, so cutting through all the fat on this advice, essentially, we're saying the real key, the stuff that works, so that you're selling exclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what it is, it's you have this relationship, you're going to get these cookies, whatever it is, it's something that isn't available elsewhere. So whether that's a story that you can't get on KU or a price that you can't get on Amazon, there's something that allows you to differentiate the way you handle your readers through than the regular retail platforms.
Yes, and the last piece of that is the time frame. So we have authors that are exclusive to KU, but they have set up either a platform, a sales platform, or they're using something like Patreon, where they say, look, if you follow me on Patreon, you get all of my books 2 weeks before I publish them exclusively through Amazon. So if you have readers, because we hear from a lot of readers who are basically like, screw Amazon, I don't buy from them, I won't spend money with them. But if my books are exclusive to Amazon, how else am I supposed to get them to you? So we have authors that use Patreon or their own sales platforms or their own newsletter to send out those books and deliver them early before they end up going exclusive to Amazon. So it's not just, you have exclusive content, so you can't get it anywhere but from me. You have exclusive pricing, so you can't buy it this cheap. You can buy all my books on Amazon, but you can't get it this cheap. You can only get it exclusively from me if you want it at this price. Or you can get it from me a month before I publish it anywhere else. And you have those fans, once they become true super fans of your work, they will absolutely buy it directly from you. They want to be the first one to read it. Remember, super fans, they love everything and they were going to buy it anyway. And we see that. We see authors. So I know you guys all know Lindsay Broker, but she runs her own Patreon. She does, for those who don't know, she writes science fiction and fantasy. She runs her own Patreon and has actually built up quite a following of readers who pay her. She sells on the, Patreon has two models, either by the month, so you can pay $5 a month and you can follow my Patreon, or you $5 by the work. So every time I publish a new work, you pay $5 and you get it. Well, she publishes her books for $5 anyway. So if you follow her for $5 a work, you're basically getting every book she publishes for the same price that you were gonna pay if you were gonna go buy it when it was published anyway. The nice thing about that is she's built up quite a nice little following of people who are literally willing to plunk down 5 books for a book they don't even know what it is yet. That is a super fan. Like, oh, you have a book coming out in some unknown series? Yes, I will give you $5 for it.
Now, related to that, I have a technical question here. So, you're not supposed to give out books for free that you have in KU. Mm-hmm. So say a situation like that where you have a Patreon and you're giving your book out early for free. It's on Bookfunnel's servers. You have a web page devoted to it. Now, say once that pre-period is over and it goes to KU, do you guys take it off your site, or is it still there for people to get? And if so, if it is still there for people to get, will Amazon spiders find it and like ding you for having it somewhere? Technically, I don't know.
You want to write a book called Amazon Spiders with me?
Amazon Spiders, yeah.
Like Minority Report.
Yeah.
So Amazon, I mean, I'm not going to encourage anybody to give out a book that they've got in KU. And if you ask us, that's absolutely what we'll tell you. That said, Amazon is not crawling Bookfunnel, and there is no way to crawl Bookfunnel. There is not an index of all the pages that exist on Bookfunnel anywhere in the world. So unless you know exactly where you're going, you're not going to find the book that you're looking for on Amazon.
Yeah, and there's also circumstances where you might want to give out a review copy, or some other reason you want to give somebody. You're not trying to divert from Amazon, but you have some legit reason to do it.
And you can. Amazon has stated pretty much over and over again that you are allowed to give out review copies. So you can create that link and you can say, here's a review copy of my book. Most of the authors that I know that give out before they go into Amazon, they put up that link, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks before it goes into Amazon. And then once they do, they delete that link. What's nice is you can actually go into Bookfunnel and using, we have a feature called Certified Mail, where you give us the email addresses of everybody that you want the book to go to. And we send each of those people their own individual unique link. So it's not a public page that exists on Bookfunnel. It's a unique link just for that reader. And 2 weeks later, all those links immediately expire and disappear. What's nice is the reader who got that book now exists in their BookFunnel library. So even if they didn't get it while that link existed, it's still in their library. If I go and I log into BookFunnel through mybookfunnel.com and you log into your library, any book, so if you set up a Patreon and you go, hey, give me all the email addresses of my Patreon supporters, and I'm going to send each of them their copy of the book. Whenever they get around to it, they'll eventually get their book. It'll just be sitting in their library. We have a lot of authors that use that with their Kickstarters. So they'll go and they'll kickstart an audiobook or they'll kickstart an ebook. And when they're done, they have this list of all their backers, and they'll come to us, and we just go put that book into all of their backers' libraries, and they send out an update through Kickstarter that says, hey, the book's gone live. Go log into your BookFunnel library, and you can download it from there. But yes, anything you do on book, if you go and you delete, so let's say you create the page and you send it out to all your Patreon supporters, which you can actually create a restricted page on BookFunnel that is restricted to your Patreon and say, this page is available to my Patreon supporters who support me at gold level and above. And when they click on it, BookFunnel will actually bounce to Patreon, make them log in and confirm and say, oh yeah,
wow.
They are at the gold level. They're allowed to get this book. Here you go. Here is your copy of this book. So it's
thought
not
of everything.
Yeah, it's so smart, man. So smart.
Fucking
Okay.
genius.
So we talked a lot about what works, especially in regard to exclusivity. Can you tell us something that universally does not work? And I know genres are different, authors are different, audiences are different, but is there anything out there that you see authors trying and just like, people stop trying this? It never
Dick
works.
pics
Dave's
with
computer.
every book.
I don't think that samples work very well on a service like BookFunnel, and the reason is so we see this with KU authors who they'll put a sample of their book up and say, join my newsletter, and you get a 10% sample of your book.
The same thing you can get on a Look Inside.
Right. You could have either gone to Look Inside, or you could just go to Amazon and say, download sample. I want to sample this book, and you've gotten the same thing. So I often try to caution authors against offering something that they can just go and get on their own, because maybe some people won't know that. They won't know that they could have gone to Amazon to get the sample. But if they figure it out, they're going to feel duped. And if you're trying to build a long-term relationship with a reader, the worst thing you want is for them to feel duped. Or to feel like, wow, and that'll happen. Some people will download it and they'll find out it's only a sample and say, you tricked me and stole my email address.
Yeah. Okay. So the advice here is, which is advice we really like. Stop asking yourself, what is the least I can do to get this idea to market, and say, like, what is the best thing I could do for my reader? Yeah, right. Well, you're talking about a relationship. That means you give more than they're expecting, not less or the bare minimum.
Well, and so the other one that I wouldn't say this is universally bad, but I do see a lot of authors who the free book, the reader magnet, the thing that they offer up for people joining their newsletter oftentimes is their first book. So their feeling is like, oh, I want to offer front list titles for joining my newsletter. I'll offer the older stuff, right? The stuff that I don't care about, especially if your books are wide, or even if you have an old series that's wide. The problem is, chances are really good that first book you wrote is the crappiest book you ever wrote, because the second one was probably better and the third one was probably better than that.
Oh, you don't know me. I'm trying to get crappier and crappier. I want to outdo myself.
You think that's crap? Wait till you see the next one. So the problem is like, if you're really trying to build a relationship with a reader, why would you put your worst foot forward, right? If that is what you're trying to give. So we tell authors to write something new, write a new novella, especially something like a prequel. Like if you've written a whole series, write a prequel novella that leads into that series. And now you have something that actually shows off, like, this is the writer that I am today. The writer that I was 10 years ago. If you read that, you're not actually getting a sample of the kind of writer that I am today. And I want you to see who I am, because hopefully you're going to read that and go, damn, this was good. I really like this guy. I'm going to keep reading him.
Yeah, that's much, much better advice than, you see it in the cookie space. Not that kind of cookie, Dave, where it really is, I'm going to tell a short story, or you won't even give it a real cover. It's like you'll take an existing cover and like change the title and font or something and say it doesn't matter because I'm giving it away for free. Like, that's the worst rationalization you can think of, because then your reader doesn't feel special.
And because for a lot of readers, this might be the first introduction that they have to your writing, but it's not just your writing. It is you as an indie author.
It's your author brand.
Your brand. It's your author brand. Do you put out quality covers? Do you write great stories? Do you write the kind of stories that I want to read? You know, I can look at your cover and your cover might scream military and science fiction, but then I get in there and it's not what I expected. Then I'm going to think, hey, this guy doesn't really write the kinds of books that I'm into, right? So you want to put that best foot forward. And there shouldn't be any reason that you can't do that. Even if you're writing a whole series, you can take a little time out and go write something different, something that's going to be exclusive. And sometimes it's even better if you know that the reason that you're writing it is it's going to be an exclusive thing that I only give away to my newsletter. You can make it really hooky. There's no reason why I shouldn't read the novella and be like, damn, I got to go buy book 1 right now, right? And that's the kind of pitch that you want to make, because you're selling, you know, we tell people that, but you're selling your author brand, and that's what people are buying. And when I finish reading a book, I'm not looking for the next book that I want to read. I'm looking for the next author that I'm going to devour their entire catalog, right? When I get done with a book, I'm like, well, until that guy has another book to read, I want to find somebody else that I can read through their entire series or their entire backlist.
Yeah, it's the difference in treating it. It's almost like instead of treating it like a piece of SEO copy where you hope you get some search traffic because you hit the notes and hopefully they land on it. It's more like thinking about the cookie that you're giving away as a sales letter, not a piece of SEO. This is a sales letter through way of story, but I am selling my entire catalog. So I need you to like me.
Are you saying I can't do that military sci-fi, which I subvert the tropes of the genre and turn it into a cozy mystery with a talking cat?
You could try it.
Oh, mission. Okay. Okay, challenge accepted.
So
you'll actually finish that. No way.
I will say that the and I don't see a lot of authors doing this, so I don't even know that it's necessary to mention, but I will say that the worst thing that I've seen authors do is get people to sign up for their newsletter, and then the freebie that they give away is sometimes an actual ebook. Like they've actually made an EPUB, a Mobi, whatever. Usually, so often it's a PDF that basically just says, thanks for signing up. Here's where you can get my book in Kindle Unlimited. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. And I know because I get the emails from all those pissed off readers who now feel like they've been duped.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Even if it sounds like a good idea, like, well, my books are free in Kindle Unlimited, so you can just go read them for free anyway.
Wait. They don't send the book?
No, they send them a PDF that says, click here to go and get my book in Kindle Unlimited and read it for free. Yes.
I would never read that. I would never read that author on principle alone.
And that is exactly the
They
email
would waste their
get.
bandwidth.
Yeah, that's the email
PDFs.
that we get to our support. We get email and they're like, I hate this author. I hate them. I will never, ever read anything from them ever again.
I want them to die. Can you make that happen?
All right, let's talk about the future, which is always fun, right? So where is the industry going? I mean, obviously you can't tell the future, but I think you have more insight than most into this. You can see kind of trends at a bird's eye view. So where do you see the industry going? But also, where do you see Bookfunnel going? And what are the things that are kind of standing in your way right now? Like, are there features that you really want to do, but the technology isn't there, the market isn't ready? So globally, where is this going? And then where do you want to see Bookfunnel in a few years?
So I guess, I mean, it's not really a shock to anybody. The biggest place that I see, we've seen obviously more and more of the industry is moving indie. Even traditionally published authors who have never ever had a foot in the indie world are starting to kind of move in that direction. You know, just put a little toe in and see. I put out this little novella. You know, I'm sure you guys all saw the big Kickstarter that Brandon Sanderson did, but so Sanderson has his big, like, can't think of it, like the series that he wants to be known for, right? It's called the Stormlight Archives, and it's a big, huge. I mean, the fantasy, they're like this big. They're gigantic doorstopper fantasies. And he started publishing them a few years back. And apparently when he sold the rights, he sold all the audio ebooks and everything else, but he maintained the rights to do special edition hardbacks just for himself. So when they put all these books out, his publisher Tor put out, I believe it's Tor, I'm fairly certain, put out hardbacks, obviously, but he maintained the rights to do really special editions. And so he finally decided that he would do that. So he went on to Kickstarter, and he started a Kickstarter for a leather-bound, like gold leaf edition of the Way of Kings, which was the first book of this. This is only the first book of the Stormlight Archives. The third book, I believe, was published. So he put this out there, and the Kickstarter has done over $5 million for this hardback, leather-bound gold leaf edition. But what he also did was he wrote an e-novella that he threw in with it. And said, oh, if you back me on Kickstarter, you not only get this book, but you get this little ebook novella that takes place in the world of the archives, right? What's cool about that is that's not going through his publisher. That little ebook, that's going, now he didn't use Bookfunnel. I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying that Brandon Sanderson's using us. He should have, but what's interesting, that's what struck me was like, wow, he's basically self-publishing a novella in his world outside of the publishing system. That's pretty huge for an author like Brandon Sanderson. Now, nobody's noted any of that because it's all part of his Kickstarter. And the amazing thing, everybody's like, wow, $5 million. That's really cool. And I'm not going to poo-poo $5 million. But to me, the cool thing was that he's basically self-publishing a novella in his own world. And that's not something that I had seen the bigger publishers do. So you're starting to see more and more of those publishers, those traditionally published authors, move into self-publishing. So I think that, and with everything going on in the world right now with the coronavirus and everything, we've seen a lot of the traditional publishing houses have kind of held back, right? They've put some of their releases on hold, their big sort of tentpole releases, just like the movies, the movie studios, they've held back some of those, and they are going to push them out to next year. They're going to push them out to the end of the year, whereas the indies were like, holy crap, everybody's sitting at home. We need to start getting our books out as fast as we can, right? And some indies have held back their releases because they wanted to hold for a better climate, but most of the indies that we've seen have been pushing really hard while they're at home and while others are at home to get their books out there. So, the indie publishing is just going to continue to grow, in my opinion. There were a lot of people for years who were like, indie publishing's, it's kind of reached their peak. They're only going to drop from here. Not from what I've seen.
Hey, that whole year of pre-production or production that we did, we were just prepared for COVID, really.
Mm-hmm. So the biggest change that in the last few years that has gotten bigger is audiobooks. And that's because audiobooks are an entirely different market from ebooks. So it's another way to package the same story that you've already written, which to me, the story is the important thing, right? Writing a great story, coming up with a great story is really, really hard. And coming up with a story and characters and worlds that readers love, that stuff's really, really hard. And once you've written the ebook, you've kind of put all that on paper, digital paper, but once you've done that, then you have the IP, you have the story, the characters, the world, all of that stuff that really is the true value of what you're selling. And everything else is just packaging. You're selling ebooks, you're selling paperbacks, you're selling hardbacks. All of those appeal to different people. I can't tell you how many people that we get on Bookfunnel who have never read an ebook. And sometimes, like, this is their first one. They're emailing us for help because they've never read one before. They've only ever read in paper. And we are so steeped in this world, in this industry of ebooks and self-publishing and everything, that still just surprises me. Like, really? You've never read an ebook before? Like, ever? But there are so many people out there who never, ever have. But an ebook is just one way to package your story. For those people, there are people out there that want paperbacks, that want hardbacks, and that want audio. A lot of them, once they move over to audio, they become audio-first consumers. Now, if you don't have the story in audio, well, screw it. I guess I'll read it in ebook.
I've become an audio-first consumer. I always look for audio. Always.
Yeah, and that's, go ahead.
I can only do audio in nonfiction. Like fiction, for some reason, audio doesn't grab me. But
I'm with you. I can't do it. I do ebooks. My wife does everything in audio unless it's not available. But what's beautiful about that is it costs it. And the reason that it's not as huge as it's going to be is because the upfront cost of producing audio obviously is a whole lot higher than the upfront cost of producing an ebook. Producing an ebook is what, if you really had to lay it out, like $45 for Scrivener, and you can basically publish your ebooks everywhere in the world. And even if you didn't want to do that, you could get a Word doc, send it to draft to digital, and you could do it all for basically $0. But audiobooks, you can't, or you shouldn't. You need a narrator. You need it professionally edited and
yeah, but
done,
you can
right?
find those guys on Fiverr, right?
So the thing is, though, that once you have that audio content, you're marketing to a whole different group of people, right? You're not getting people like me who only want ebooks. You're getting the people who want the audiobooks. And what's better is people that are doing audio are used to paying more than most people are paying for ebooks. So audio has been growing huge for the last 5 and 6 years, and it's only getting bigger as the market continues to open up. You know, we didn't have 2 years ago, Apple was selling audiobooks, but really they were just selling Audible books. Like Apple pulled all of their books from Audible. So if you were in Audible, you could get into Apple. Kobo didn't have an audiobook store. Now they do. Google Play didn't have an audiobook store. Now they do. Find a Way is now pushing to all these stores and stuff that you've never heard of. Scribd didn't have audio. Now they do, right? The audio market is blowing up now.
Spotify.
Yeah. Spotify just announced that they're getting into audiobooks. Exactly. So, you know, the venues that we're going to have for selling audio are just getting bigger and bigger every year. And like I said, it's an entirely different market from the people that are currently buying your ebooks. So you're not pitching to the same people. You're getting an entirely new class of readers. I guess they're still readers, even though they're listening, to come in and discover your work. So that to me is those are the biggest changes. The biggest change from the Bookfunnel perspective is what we already talked about, which is so many authors that are getting into direct sales, doing the sales directly from their own websites, and in either setting up their whole store so that they can sell all of their books directly from their own store. And especially we have a number of publishers that have done this. They've set up their entire publishing store. We had one publisher, which we don't mention anybody by name, but we had a publisher who their readers had contacted them and said, you know, I love your books, and but every time I go looking at Amazon, the problem is that a lot of authors will, you only get so many categories on Amazon. I think it's 2, maybe they've generously given us 3 by now, but for the most part, you're limited by how many genres, and then they have other tags and things where you can sort of sneak into these other genres. The problem is if you are, and we see this a lot on Bookfunnel promotions, when you get a big promotion, if it's got 50 authors in it, and if the promotion says that it's sweet Christian romance, and you try to sneak an erotica book or something that is absolutely not sweet Christian romance, you're going to hear from those readers. I'm going to hear from those readers because they get real mad at that. So this publisher, they are a publisher of sweet Christian romance, and they had their readers reach out to them and say, I love your books, but I don't like browsing Amazon because so many times, even when I'm looking for the kind of romance that I read, I'm presented with a bunch of covers and books that are not what I read, and I really don't like it. And so this publisher
stir
said,
the loins.
Yes, exactly. It makes me tingly, and I don't care for it.
Bears for Jesus.
Yeah. So this publisher said, hey, everything they publish is in that genre. So they went off and built their own bookstore and started pitching to, they'd already built a newsletter. They started pitching their own bookstore to their newsletter and said, every book that you find in our bookstore meets our values.
Oh,
and
that's
suddenly,
smart. That's really
right?
smart.
So
Yeah.
then suddenly people want to go and buy directly from them because I know that every book that I browse on this store is going to be exactly the kind of book that I want to read. And we have a number of publishers that are doing that now, that are starting to set up their own bookstores because their publishing brand is something that they have worked really hard to build. But if you're a publisher and all your books are only available on Amazon and all the other bookstores, then you can't build that brand on a store. Even on, it sounds like I beat up on Amazon, but even on Kobo, there's no store page for Tor publishing, right? You just go in and you start browsing books. And if you're looking at fantasy sci-fi, you're going to get a bunch of Tor books mixed in there just because Tor, that's what they publish. But you're not going to see, these are the Tor books that you're looking for. I don't think Tor has their own bookstore, but they might. But we have seen a number of the smaller publishers that have started setting that up, and indie authors are following in their footsteps. They're looking at that and saying, hey, everything that I publish is in this genre and this kinds of books. So I'm setting up my own bookstore because you know that everything that I publish is the kind of books that you want to read. That's been a big change in the last couple of, honestly, even since the coronavirus started, the number of queries and inquiries that we've gotten about direct sales is probably 10 times higher than it has been in the years before. And I don't know if that's just because people are sitting around at home and deciding that they want to give this a try, or if it's just more and more authors who are saying, I want to be able to offer my readers discounts, and I want to be able to create that direct connection with readers.
Yeah, I'd love that. So all of your answers are really growth minded, which is great. I love hearing that. In the state of the industry, we're growing. So my last question, unless anybody else has anything, but my last question is, where do you feel we are on the timeline? Do you still think that we're still super early adopter? I mean, because you just talked about this, how there's so many people who've never even read an ebook at this point, right? So one of the things that gets, I think, a little tiring about our industry on just an author to author level is how much sky is falling type of nonsense there always is. And it's the end of days. And, you know, I missed my shot to be a successful indie author. And, you know, all of that just seems so narrow to me, because it just really feels like we're really lucky. Even 10 years in, we're really lucky to be at the beginning of something. So do you feel like we're the beginning, middle, end? Where do you think we are on all this?
I think that we're still in the beginning. I think that you have authors that were in the beginning, and there, you know, they call it first mover advantage for a reason. So there are some authors that they have a career today because they started back in 2010, 2011, and they have managed. But the trick is that first mover advantage only gets you there first. It doesn't keep you going. The ones that are still here from 2010, 2011, they're still here. Sure, they had a little bit of a boost because they started before everybody else did, but they're still here because they're still publishing great content that people want to read. And that's really what it comes down to. If you think that the sky is falling and that the industry is just going down the toilet, then you probably didn't spend a lot of time in traditional publishing, because every author that I know that was ever in traditional publishing, they think this is the most amazing thing in the entire world.
Right.
And if you ever follow, you know, Dean Wesley Smith and Chris Rush, they constantly hammer this point home. We are in the greatest time ever to be an author. And it sucks, because if you're that author who's just like, well, I wrote this one book and it took me 3 years to write it and nobody's buying it. And the message from every successful indie is going to be, well, where's your next book? And where's the book after that? And where's the book after that? And that's because in the indie world, you're not going to make it with, I published one book, you know, some amazing literary fiction, The Kite Runner, and suddenly, you know, you blow up and you're on Oprah. That doesn't happen.
You might want to change your model and start like, okay, if you're going to write one thing, write a script and shop that around or something, because you can do that one moonshot, but a moonshot with a book is just, it's not what it used to be.
So I still see the industry growing, and I still personally know, I mean, I have a lot of author friends. I know authors today that are making well more than six figures who only started publishing 2 years ago. So this idea that you had to start 10 years ago if you wanted to be lucky enough to be one of the anointed writers, no, it's not true. And sure, if your goal is, I'm going to write books and I'm going to make millions of dollars, maybe temper your expectations a little bit. But I know more writers today that are making a living than ever before in the history of publishing. And I think that's amazing. And the cool thing is that as an indie author, there really is no limit to what you can do. You can try anything. Even if somebody tells you that that's not going to work and that's a terrible idea, just try it. I always tell people, look, if you write a short story, you write a novella, you write a whole book and you put it out there and you give it to your mailing list, or let's say that you wrote this book a long time ago, it was one of your first books, never really sold all that well, and now it just sits out there doing nothing. Why not give a copy to everybody on your newsletter? What's the worst thing that can happen? Somebody reads it? I mean, you really can. Once you write a short story, a novella, anything that you write, anything that you put to digital paper, ultimately is another piece of content that you have in your backlist. And that gives you, the more content that you have, the more you can experiment, the more that you can try things. And as an indie, that is something that you can do that was never, ever possible in the publishing industry before, that you really can try writing a short story or writing a series of short stories or a serialized fiction or an extended epilogue to your books or to your entire series, and just throw that out there and see what happens. What's the worst thing that happens? You wrote something that didn't really go anywhere. Oh, well, put it in the can. Maybe you'll do something with it later. So I still think we're still in the early phases, and I think that there's still a lot of gas left in the tank. You're always going to have people who complain that this is too much work, and especially if they're looking around at the people that seem to make it easy, that make it look easy, and they're like, "Whoa, you got it easy because you started back when blah 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 blah." And
we started back in the blah 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 blah, and we've had to relearn everything because now it's pay to play, and it doesn't, But you evolve, you learn what the market is doing, and you get better at your job.
I guess it comes down to is this, is it way back when I first started writing, which I say way back when, like it was Stone Ages or something, but it feels like it sometimes in the self-publishing world, it was the Stone Ages. But way back when I was first reading K-boards and joining Facebook groups and stuff, and one of the pieces of advice that I often heard when people would bemoan the state of the industry back in 2008, oh, the indie publishing's over, right? The thing that I loved, the quote that I always loved was, if you can do anything else besides be a writer, you should probably choose to do that instead. But if you can't choose anything else and like, this is what I'm going to do, I am going to be a writer, then be a writer. Keep writing and keep plugging away at it.
All right. Well, final question. Has COVID affected your ability to get beaver nuggets?
Funky.
No, actually, we've been able to get well stocked on beaver nuggets. You can actually order them online now. You can go to Buc-ee's and you can go to Amazon and you can order them. So
what a wonderful world we live in.
Right.
Amazon.
Diabetic coma by phone.
Exactly. The amazing world of the internet. You can get anything.
Oh man, go Buc-ee's. All right. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, too bad. And for the rest of you, thanks everybody for listening to the Story Studio podcast. Thanks, Damon, for being on. Good to see you again, my friend. And I guess that's it. So we'll see y'all on the next one.
Thanks, guys.
Adios.